Hi, it's Jane here. I'm back with another episode of my knitting podcast. It has been a while since I've done one of these. I've just been kind of busy, but also just I haven't really had the energy. I have actually tried filming this a couple of times before, but for various reasons it just didn't work. I had a few technical issues and yeah, I don't know, I just wasn't happy with the footage when I came to edit it. So anyway, hopefully this one will work out fine because I have got a lot of knitting projects to show you. A lot of updates since the last one, obviously, since it's been nearly 3 months. I don't think I'll be able to get through everything. I don't even really remember what I've been working on since like March. So I'll just talk about the ones that have been like my most significant works in progress. And I think I've got 3 maybe to show you. I've got a disgusting amount of yarn. I did go on holiday a couple of weeks ago to Copenhagen, so obviously I visited a few yarn shops while I was there and I did buy some yarn. So I'll show you that towards the end. I'll start by talking about what I'm wearing. I don't know whether this was a finished object in the last video or if it was a nearly finished object. Anyway, as you can see, it's finished now. So I guess this is my only finished object of this video. And this is the Camisole number, oh gosh, I always forget what number it is. I think it's 12. I'll put it in the description anyway, 11 maybe or 12. It's a pattern by my favourite things, Knitwear. So I have shown this in previous videos. It was a work in progress. I knitted this in one strand of Linendale by King Cole. This yarn is a cotton linen viscose blend. It's a DK weight yarn. So it's very, very similar to other yarns such as Drop Spell and Sandnes Garn Line, which have got an almost identical fibre composition. It's like cotton linen viscose. Maybe the exact percentages vary slightly, but I think it's kind of like a dupe for those. I have used Drop Spell before. I've never used the Sandnes Garn Line. You know, I did like Drop Spell. This one, I think it does feel really similar to Drop Spell. It's maybe slightly softer. This colour is called Damson. I really like it. It's just the kind of very deep but like cool toned purple. It's a colour that I would never have chosen if I'd been buying the yarn online, which is how I usually buy yarn. But because I was in the shop and I got to see the colours in person, this one just really stuck out to me, which I'm really glad that I went for it because it's a nice colour on me, I think. And this one is constructed top down and it's got a very simple lace pattern. So I think it's like an 8-stitch repeat. So it's a really simple pattern to do because it's just knits and purls and then yarns over, and then it's not a knit 2 together lace. I think it's one of those where you have to slip one, knit one, and pass the slip stitched over. I did try doing a knit 2 together just because I thought it would just save time and make it a bit quicker. But because when you knit the lace, the previous row is a purl row, and I think doing the slip one, knit one, pass the slip stitch over, it just looks a little bit neater than doing a knit 2 together. So I think I did like one row where I did knit 2 together and then another row where I did the proper way in the pattern, and I decided to just stick to what the pattern said. So yeah, you knit in the round at the neckline. When you cast on, the pattern tells you to cast on quite tightly so that the neckline stays quite firm, I guess, like doesn't sag. I went down a needle size, so I think I used a 4.5mm needle to knit for the garment, but I used a 4mm needle to cast on, and then I just did change to 4.5 for the first round, and that seemed to work quite well. That it's not made it too tight, but it's definitely a little bit tighter, so I'm glad about that. The front and the back are knitted exactly the same way, so there is no official front or back to the top. You knit in the round for the shoulders and then you separate the front and back panels. You knit to about here, then you start increasing for the armholes, and then you join all in the round. I joined in the round a few rounds sooner than what the pattern suggested because it looked like it was going to be a really large armhole opening, and as you can see it is like still quite deep, so I think I could have maybe got away with joining it a few rounds sooner. Because I did that though, and I decided to do it when I'd already started doing the increases, I didn't do as many increases on the armhole as you were supposed to. So when I joined it in the round, I cast on a couple of extra stitches here to make up for the stitches that I missed out on. And I think overall it's still like 4 stitches less than what the pattern suggested, but that's fine because it's quite a roomy top anyway. But you could also just knit this section a little bit shorter and start doing the armhole increases a little bit earlier as well, if I had like thought to do it beforehand. So yeah, it was a really nice knit. It was quite a quick knit as well. So if you're still looking for like summer cast-ons and want something to wear like quite soon, this would be a good one to do. I was thinking about making this one into a dress. I mean, not this version because I didn't buy enough yarn for that, but I do have a dress quantity of Knitting for Olive pure silk, and I thought this would make a really nice dress, this pattern, if I just extended it. Now that I've made it into a top, I don't think I'm going to do it, just because, as you can see, it's kind of, because of the lace, it's quite see-through. I'm wearing a sports bra underneath this today, but sometimes when I've worn it out, I've worn like a black vest underneath just so that it's not too see-through. So if I made it into a dress, I would need to wear like a slip dress underneath for it not to be too see-through. It would make a really nice beach dress though. However, I don't go to the beach that often, maybe like once a year. So it seems like a lot of effort to go to make something that I'm not going to wear that often. One thing though, because I had to wear like a vest under this, it did make it quite warm. Like, because although it's a summer top, I felt like I had, you know, slightly cold arms but a warm body, which is not a feeling that I really enjoy. So yeah, I'm gonna just like experiment with different like bra options. So maybe if I will find a bra that covers me up a bit more, I feel more comfortable wearing it rather than having to wear a vest underneath because it does get a bit hot. Okay, I'm going to start showing you my works in progress now. The first one that I'm going to show you, I think, is my most exciting one, or at least the one that I'm most excited about. It's the one that I've been more actively working on recently. So I bought the yarn from this when I was in Copenhagen. I obviously went to the Knitting for Olive shop while I was there, among many others. I've been wanting to go to Denmark for so long, mainly for the knitting shops. And I went to a wedding a few weeks ago of a friend, so it was a good excuse to like make a holiday out of it. So I went to Copenhagen for a few days and then we drove to the other side of the country for the wedding. But yeah, while I was in Copenhagen, I went to a few yarn shops, not as many as I had planned, but you know, I've got a small child with me, so I can't really, it's not really fair to drag her around knitting shops. And she was very patient while I did look at yarn and helped me choose some out and picked out a few things that she wants me to knit for her. So yeah, I've got plenty of knitting plans now. From the Knitting for Olive shop, I had in mind I wanted to make the Barbroe blouse. I'm sorry about my pronunciation, Barbru. I tried to like pick up a bit of Danish while I was there, but it's quite a difficult language to pronounce, I find, so I'm definitely pronouncing it wrong. I've been admiring this blouse for quite a while, like since the pattern was first released, I think. I think it's so beautiful, it's really elegant. Because it's knit on 3mm needles and it uses like a 4-ply merino, I think it would be a very wearable top as well because it's not too heavy, quite lightweight, but the long sleeves mean that it would maybe be good for like autumn, winter. I spent ages choosing a colour. I was like picking up all the little balls of wool and kind of looking in the mirror and holding them against my skin to see what what I thought would work, trying to imagine it as the blouse. They did have a nice sample in the shop, which was knit in a kind of very pale pink. I went for something very different. I went for rust. So I'll show you the progress I've made. I have been knitting on this a lot, given that I only got back from Denmark less than 2 weeks ago. I cast this on while I was there and I've done all this in that time. So I've pretty much knit the body and I've now split for the front and the back. So this one, as you can see, it's knit bottom up and you split the front and the back, knit those separately. I've not really got to the neckline yet. And then the sleeves are knit separately and then they're sewn on at the end. So that's something that I've not really done in a while. Like I always prefer just to pick up stitches for sleeves from the armhole, but because this one's got set-in sleeves, it makes more sense, I guess, to knit them separately and sew them on. But you know, it's good to go out of our comfort zone sometimes and do techniques that we don't usually do. I mentioned the yarn already. This is Knitting for Olive Merino. The colour is Rust. I love this colour. I've knit a camisole before in this colour. It was the Posy tank top or the Posy top by Along Anna, and I used a cotton merino that time, but the same colour, and I just really like how it looks on me. I think it's quite a flattering colour. I've been really enjoying knitting this. The lace pattern is just really fun to do. Every row is different enough that it kind of keeps me interested, but it's repetitive enough as well that I don't need to like look at the pattern anymore. After I'd done like the first few charts, I kind of felt comfortable to just not use the charts anymore. The pattern itself, I had planned to modify this one to do like a scoop neck instead of the high neck, because I really like the high neck. I think it looks really elegant, but I think styles like that, this can sometimes suit me, but sometimes they really don't. And I just think it's a lot of work to go through to decide that I don't like it. But then I'm also a bit worried about modifying it in case that doesn't work out either. Knitting for Olive have another pattern called the Barbroe top, which is like a sleeveless vest camisole thing, and it's got a scoop neck. So basically what I'm trying to do, or what I'm planning on, is to kind of merge those two together. So do the Barbroe blouse, but with the neckline of the Barbroe top. It would still have a high back. I wouldn't do a scooped back. I would have like a high back. And on the back of the Barbroe blouse, there's like a little keyhole button thing, which is so sweet and it looks really pretty. But I think if I end up modifying the pattern, I would probably just leave that out and just kind of keep it just straight at the back. One thing about this pattern is I have kind of tried it on. It's supposed to have negative ease. I've heard, or like I've read some comments that this blouse is a little bit bigger than what it says. One thing, just to begin, I didn't gauge swatch, okay, so there's that is my fault. If it doesn't turn out properly, I've only got myself to blame because I didn't do a gauge swatch. The reason I didn't was because I cast this on when I was on holiday and I didn't bring any needles with me. I'd only brought one project with me, which was a sock, but I didn't bring any more needles. So I had to buy some new needles as well. And I just got the 3mm, which was the recommended one for the pattern. So I knew that I kind of wanted to start knitting it right away. Like I'd already bought the needles and I didn't really need to buy needles because I have them at home. So I just decided to go for it. It is kind of coming up a little bit big. Like I don't think it's going to have the negative ease that it's supposed to have. I'm making the second size, which is supposed to have like an 80cm bust circumference, which would give me like, I don't know, 10-12cm of negative ease, which sounds like quite a lot, to be honest. But yeah, I just think, I've not actually measured this, but it does seem to come up quite big. It might work out better if it doesn't have as much negative ease if I just do it as a high neck top. I don't really know. I'm so unsure what to do next. So I've kind of just like left it like this for the past couple of days while I decide. So yeah, that's all I've got to say about that one right now. I am really enjoying knitting it and I'm kind of excited to get it finished. So I need to make a decision soon about what I'm going to do. I think I'm still leaning towards a skip neck. I just need to kind of figure out how I'm going to best do it, that it's not going to kind of mess up the lace pattern. Okay, next, work in progress. I showed this one in my last video. This one is a test knit for the Knit Purl girl, and it's the Lise top. So I'll show you how far I've got. So I've cast off the body and I have knit the first sleeve and I'm about to cast on the second one. I haven't cast off the sleeve just because I want to block it to see how much it stretches, but I think that's kind of the right length. If it stretches a little bit, it would probably be just right, but it might not stretch as much as I want it to, in which case I can just go back and knit a few more rounds before casting off properly. This has been released very recently, so I think it just came out this week. It's a top down pattern, and you cast on and you kind of knit the shoulders, and it's one of these where you like increase on every row to shape the shoulders, and then you cast on stitches for the neckline, and then kind of start knitting in the round until you get to the end of the shoulder, and then you split the front and the back, knit the front and back panels, join it all in a round, you know the drill, and then pick up stitches for the sleeves. And then there are a few short rows in the sleeves, which is quite nice because it is quite a high sleeve join. It sits quite high on the shoulder, so it's kind of almost like a set-in sleeve. And on the when you knit the front and back panels as well, there are some increases to shape the armhole. So it's not like a drop shoulder, it's kind of more of a set-in sleeve kind of situation. I really love this top. I think it's a beautiful design. I think it's very elegant. It's, you know, it just really stuck out to me. I hadn't applied to do a test knit in about 2 years, and then when I saw this one, I just really, really wanted to knit it. But I'm kind of in two minds about whether I should go back and change some things. It was a test knit, so obviously the pattern wasn't completely finished yet. And one of the things that I think has been changed in the final version of the pattern is that the yoke depth, or like the arm side, is a little bit deeper in the final one. And this was some of the feedback that I gave to Sophie, was that it felt like it could just be like a couple of centimeters, maybe just 1 centimeter extra would just make it a little bit more comfortable. I mean, it still fits as it is and it's not uncomfortable, but I would just prefer to have like a little bit more room in the armpit. So that is something that she has addressed and she has changed for the final pattern. I do really like Sophie's patterns. I think there's a lot of attention to detail in them. And I think as a designer, like I've kind of been following her pretty much since she started designing, or maybe like a few patterns in. And I do really like admire her as a designer, because I think she really does care about the small details, and also she is very responsive to feedback as well. I feel like she's always trying to kind of improve her patterns, which are already very good, but it's just nice to see that somebody is like open to growing as a designer. And I've test knit for her once before, and she's always really lovely to test knit for as well. I'm not sure whether I want to kind of go back and change this just to kind of give myself a little extra space in the armpit. I think I probably will, just because I think it's better to iron out these issues at the beginning rather than like knitting the whole thing and then never wearing it because it doesn't fit quite right. But that's why I've been putting off knitting the second sleeve. But I wanted to at least finish one sleeve and finish the body so I could kind of give some feedback now that the test knit is over. I'll just quickly mention the yarn I used. I have mentioned it before, but I'll just mention it again. I'm using one strand of Bio Balance by BC Garn. I've got a full skein here, and it's in this lovely shade of red. This is, well, it's upside down. It's 55% pure organic wool and 45% pure organic cotton. And it's a 4-ply yarn. It's got 225 meters per 50 gram hank. The recommended yarn, or the one that Sophie used, was Gepard Cotton Wool 5. There's a cotton wool 3 and a cotton wool 5. It was the 4-ply one. And one strand of Isager Trio 1, which I am using. And this is 50% linen, 30% cotton, and 20% lyocell. So it's a plant-based yarn. It's got a really nice sheen to it. So it's nice as an alternative to silk if you still want to have that sheen. It is quite coarse because of the linen, I suppose. And yeah, this is a lace weight. It's got 350 meters per 50 grams, and this is the color Strawberry, which is such a lovely shade of red. So yeah, I'm holding these together on a 4mm needle. Actually, I'm using a 3.75mm needle to get the gauge, but you know, it's like a DK weight, a light DK weight, I suppose. The Bio Balance is quite woolly, so I've used like cotton merino before, which feels a lot smoother, but then merino in general is a lot tends to be a bit smoother and like rounder, whereas this one does feel quite woolly and fluffy. So I think because of that, although this is like a summer garment, and there is a short sleeve version as well, which is obviously a lot more summery, but I'm sort of looking at this more like a kind of autumn sweater. So yeah, that one's kind of been put to the side for the moment while I decide what to do about it. I've got another work in progress to show you now, and this one I don't think I had started it in the last video, but I think I did show the yarn that I bought for it. So this is the sweater number 12, another of my favourite things knitwear. Okay, so this is as far as I've got. I've cast off the stitches for the body and I'm about halfway through the first sleeve. I worked through this one really quickly, and then again I just put it to the side while I had a lot of other things that I needed to do for a while, and then I went on holiday and I didn't want to take this one with me, so that was kind of why I put this to the side. I'm using Sandnes Garn Sunday Hjelholts Double, and I'm using two different colours. So I've got, I think it's called Marzipan and Almond. They have colour numbers as well, but I'll put all the details in the description. So that's like the kind of off-white. And I chose two very similar but slightly different shades of white, or like off-white, just to kind of get a slightly heathered effect with the yarn. I mean, it kind of works. I don't think anybody will really notice except for me, but I think it's really fun to kind of play around with colours. I feel like a bit like mixing paint together. When you can use two strands of yarn together, you kind of create new, slightly different colours, even though it's not that different. For the navy stripe, I'm also using one strand of Sandnes Garn Sunday, and I'm holding it with one strand of WoolyKnit Merino 4-ply, which I bought a cone of this like a couple of years ago, and I've kind of just never really got around to using it. So I'm holding those two together. And again, they're both dark navies, but they're just kind of slightly different shades. I think the Sandnes Garn one, I forget the colour name. I think it could just be navy blue. But it is a little bit more blue, whereas the WoolyKnit is a lot darker. So again, you just get a very small bit of heathering, which is just makes it a tiny bit more interesting. So this has been really fun to knit. I did modify the neckline for this one. When I first cast it on, I just knit it according to the instructions, but when I got to about the first navy stripe, I decided to try it on just because the neckline looked really narrow, and it was very narrow. I could barely get it over my head. Also, the neckline is knit on a 4mm needle, which is the same as the body. So I think you just use the same needle size all the way through. You don't go down a needle size for the neckline, which is what I'm used to doing. And this meant that when you knit the neckline, you don't do any increases. It's just, it's knit in broken rib as well. It's not in 1x1 rib. And then you start the increases when the raglan increases when you get to about here. So this kind of created like a sort of funnel neck shape. I think I took a picture of what it looked like, so I'll put it right here now so you can see what it looks like. And this was another reason why I wanted to try it on, because I wasn't really sure what I would like. I didn't really want a funnel neck. I kind of just wanted like a smooth, standard, straight neckline. So because it was so tight, when I tried it on, it did have a bit of a funnel neck, but it kind of like sat on my neck. It was very close to my neck like that. So it came up to about here and then just started increasing out. Now this is something that might have relaxed a bit after I blocked it, but I didn't really like how it looked. I just wanted just a kind of crew neck. So I just decided to start again. I kind of had like two problems that I wanted to solve. Firstly, the neckline was too tight. Secondly, the neckline, I didn't want the funnel neck. There was a third thing as well that I wanted to change. So this pattern it does have short rows around the neck, but it's only really got one, like, let's call it like a set of short rows. So if you imagine you're knitting in the round, and then you kind of turn your work on the wrong side up until here, you turn it again and work on the right side up until here, and then you kind of just continue knitting in the round. So you've knitted 2 extra rows on the back, so it's kind of like 1 short row set, if that makes sense. I wanted to add a few more short rows as well, just to raise the back a little bit more, but this was kind of going to create a few problems. So yeah, 3 problems there that I needed to solve. So what I did was, firstly, I went down a needle size. So just for the neckline where you're just doing 1 by 1 rib without any raglan increases, I used a 3.5mm needle. However, going down a needle size when the neckline was already really tight to begin with meant that I needed to cast on a few extra stitches around the neckline so that it wouldn't be too tight. Now, you can't just cast on a random number of stitches, you kind of have to make it work so that it will work with the pattern. So it kind of makes sense to do it in multiples of 8. You have 2 on the front, 2 on the back, and 2 on each sleeve, because that way as well, the front panel, the back panel, and the sleeve panels, they need to be odd numbers so that the 1 by 1 broken rib and will kind of work with the raglan increases as well. So I needed to cast on a multiple of 8 so that the pattern would still work. Then because I wanted to add some extra short rows as well, and the front panel is quite narrow, so you've got like a very wide, like 11 stitch raglan panel here. These raglan panels will, like, once you separate the body from the sleeves, these raglan panels are like absorbed into the body stitches. So they kind of, for all intents and purposes, they are like body stitches. And I didn't want to do more short rows here because I thought the shaping wouldn't work. So I wanted to start doing the short rows in the raglan panels, if that makes sense. So the first short row I would do here, then the second one here, and then the third one would be here. And I wanted to do the short rows after I started increasing. I didn't want to have them in the neckline. So I cast on 4 extra stitches for the front panel compared to the back panel. So on the front panel, say I had like, I don't know, 25 stitches, and on the back 21. And this is because once I started doing the short rows and I started increasing the back and the sleeves, I wouldn't be increasing on the front panel. So I would need to have some extra stitches there so that once I'd finished my short rows and kind of started knitting in the round again, I would have the same number of stitches on the back and the front. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. In summary, I went down to a 3.5mm needle. I cast on 12 extra stitches, so adding 2 to the back, 2 to each sleeve, and 6 to the front. And I added like 2 more like sets of short rows. So I started the first one about here in the raglan, the second one here, and then the third one here. So that was how I modified my neckline. Because I cast on extra stitches here, it meant that I would have fewer increases to do. So once I got to the correct number of stitches in the yoke, I knit a couple of extra rounds without any increases, so that I would still have the same number of rows in the yoke and the right number of stitches in the end. Okay, so yeah, that was how I modified it. It was like maybe slightly complicated, but it was definitely a lot simpler than I probably just made it sound. That's all of my main works in progress. I'm kind of running out of time. I'll show you just quickly some of the yarn that I got, and I'll tell you my plans with it. It's quite a lot of yarn. I apologise. I don't know whether I should apologise for having bought lots of yarn. It just feels like I'm always showing lots of yarn, and I don't want to be like buying more than I really need. But I had kind of like put some money aside for yarn shopping while I was in Copenhagen, because it's been somewhere that I wanted to go for so long. So I did want to get some nice yarn on my trip. And it is a little bit cheaper than buying it here. So, you know, I've kind of got enough yarn to hopefully keep me going for the rest of the year, maybe 2 years. So I already showed you the merino that I got from the Knitting for Olive shop. I did also, while I was there, buy some heavy merino. I've never used this yarn before, but I've been wanting to try it for ages. I just got 5 of these. This is the colour Terracotta Rose, and I'm going to make a jumper for my daughter. Maybe an Ingrid sweater, or maybe like the Esther cardigan, I think would look really cute in this yarn. Something with texture anyway. I don't want to knit just a stocking stitch. I want to do something, yeah, with either like cables or just some kind of texture. So that's my plan for that one. The first shop that I went to when I was in Copenhagen was Sommerfuglen, which I think means butterfly in Danish. And again, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, so I'm really sorry. I actually went to the shop twice because it was the first shop I went to and I didn't want to like spend all my money. I could have easily spent all my money there. And they did stock like Knitting for Olive as well. But I really wanted to go to the Knitting for Olive shop and buy some from the shop itself. So I didn't get any while I was there. They had a lot of really lovely yarn though. So they had Knitting for Olive, they had Isager yarn, they had some hand dyed yarns. I think they had like hedgehog fibers, maybe Madeline Tosh. They had this one as well. So this is Hjelholts Uldspinderi. So this is like a Danish yarn. I think the mill is on the island of Funen, which is like the island, like if you're driving from Copenhagen to the mainland, you have to cross the island of Funen, and that's where this is, because I wanted to see whether I'd have time to like go to the shop on our drive. In the end we didn't, so I just got this from Sommerfuglen instead. And yeah, I went back there specifically to get this one. This is the Håndværksgarn, and this is all in Danish. I think it's a combination of Falkland Merino and Gotland Pelsuld. It's like a worsted weight. So 100 grams is 200 meters. And I have got 6 of these. I did buy 5 originally, and then I kind of immediately regretted it after I'd left. I was like, I really should have just got another one, because my plan for this is like probably going to be the Dagmar jacket by Petite Knit, or again, something with some texture in it. I'm thinking like cables, and although I probably could make something with 5 of these, if I want to do something with cables do kind of eat yarn, because you're crossing it over, it just, you need more yarn to make like the same sized sweater. So I ended up, after I got home, ordering another one of these from the same shop, which, you know, is a bit annoying, kind of defeats the purpose of like going there to get it if you have to pay postage. Although postage was really cheap to the UK. It was only like £5, which is like the same as what I'd pay if I was buying from a UK shop, and sometimes you pay even more. So I'm a little bit suspicious. It seems a bit too cheap, and you think that there must have been a mistake, and they're going to send me like a bill or something. So I'm kind of like half expecting to get like a surprise bill. Anyway, this color, I think it's called Sand, otherwise it's number 23, and it's like this, it's an off-white, but it's got like little flecks of like grey in it, so it's quite like a grey leaning off-white. And yeah, I think it will probably be a Dagmar jacket or something similar to that. The last other wool shop I went to was Uldspinderi. Again, I think they had Isager. They also had a lot of Gepard Garn, which was one of the other brands that I'd been on the lookout for. So I got some Woolia. It's one of these where it's got quite a lot of meterage, a bit like the heavy merino. You could kind of get away with a 5mm needle, or so they say anyway. Yeah, 50 grams, 133 meters. So you can kind of get away with buying less than what you would with different yarns. My plan for this is a cardigan number 9. It does recommend Woolia. Also, it recommends a strand of mohair. I'm gonna try and do it without the mohair though, just to make it a little bit cheaper. And also, I don't know, I'm kind of like a little bit over mohair. I don't really feel like it needs to be in every project, especially when you pair it with a DK. I think it can be a little bit too warm, a little bit too fluffy. So I'm just going to use this on its own, and it's kind of an oversized cardigan anyway, so if it ends up not being as thick, that's probably not going to be a bad thing. So yeah, that's all the yarn that I got from Copenhagen. I also did buy one more thing in Uldspinderi. So when you go to pay on the counter, they have got like these little bowls of the most beautiful stitch markers. They're from Strickadine, and I got this little pink one. It's so cute. I've never really been that much of a stitch marker girly. I kind of just use the very basic ones, but recently I've just been seeing the appeal of these. When you see them in person, they just look so pretty because they're all in a little bowl. They're all different colors, different sizes of gemstones. And I don't know, they just look like little treasures. So I got this one. It's so cute. Oh yeah, I also bought this little project bag. This was just from So Stream Green. This wasn't from like a knitting shop or anything. We do have this shop in the UK as well, but it was kind of nice to go to the one in Copenhagen because it's huge. I've got a few project bags from them in the past, and I do really like them. I think they have some like nice designs, and what I've noticed as well is like they kind of change the designs a lot. Like they don't always have the same ones in stock. So the ones that I've bought in the past, I've like never seen them in the shops again. I did also get some beads. This is kind of unrelated now, but I got these little beads from So Stream Green to make like, I don't know, a bracelet or something. And they kind of match my stitch marker, which I didn't realize at the time, but I guess I'm just drawn to these like little pink beads. Oh yeah, one more thing. This was some more yarn that I bought, not from my holiday, but this is for a present, so that's kind of why I bought more. I didn't really, obviously, like I didn't need to buy more yarn. As I've said, I've got enough to last me until the end of the year for sure. So I am going to make a little baby blanket, and the pattern I'm going to use is the Mini Augustins #1. I think this is a really lovely pattern. Always wanted to make this. I kind of wish that I had seen it before my own daughter was born, so I could have made it for her. But now that my sister's having a baby, I can make it for her instead. So I'm going to use Drops Baby Merino. I wanted to use something that was going to be soft enough for a baby, obviously, but also quite practical. So a superwash merino, it's going to be washable, which is important for a baby blanket. And this is really soft, really squishy, so it won't be like scratchy at all. It will just be like nice and cozy and cuddly. I think this was the color Wheat, color 59. I think it was Wheat. It's an off-white, but it's a very kind of pink leaning off-white. Like it looks very pink when I'm showing it up, when I'm holding it up in the camera. But yeah, I quite like that though. I think it's really nice. Whereas I think the color off-white is more yellow leaning. It's more of a cream. But this one definitely leans quite pink. It's more cooler toned. So that is now all the yarn. I'm sure there are more things that I've been working on, but I've kind of ran out of time now to show you. Hopefully I will be back sooner than the last one. I do have like more ideas for videos that I want to do other than the kind of usual like update, like monthly podcast update. I did film a video where I talked about all of like the summer tops that I've knit, and that was one where some of the footage, just like the lighting was all off, like you couldn't even see me because like it was like far too bright, or like the sound was off. So I will probably try and like re-record that at some point before summer is over, hopefully. Another one that I kind of want to do is I've got a few knitted objects that I just don't really wear very much anymore, either because they don't fit me properly or they don't really go with things in my wardrobe. So I'd like to go through them and kind of talk about what it is that I would do differently, like how would I change it, or just would I just knit something completely different, but kind of look into like what it is about it. Like, is it the fit? Is it just the color, the gauge, the yarn? And I think that would be kind of an interesting one to do, because I am trying to pay more attention to the types of things that I knit. Like I see patterns all the time that I think would look really fun to knit. They look really beautiful just as finished objects, but I know that I would never wear it. And I'm trying to like pay more attention to like what it is that I like about certain things, what it is that I don't like about other things, so that in the future when I make things, I know that I'm going to make things that I'm going to wear. And whether that's just yarn choice, color choice, or like fit, there's like a combination of different reasons why I don't wear certain things. So that's one of my plans as well. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Some of these works in progress are quite close to being finished, so hopefully they'll be finished by the next time I do one of these. I know that that was a lot of yarn as well, but I should have enough to keep me going anyway. Shouldn't be bored these next few months. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.